Get ready, because we're taking a deep dive into Carnal Sanctuary.
Yes, the third book is almost here.
I know. Feels like we've been waiting forever
I think a lot of people have been.
to see how this whole thing wraps up and how Ellie Sandoval is going to bring this trilogy to a close.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, for someone so young to have created such an immersive world like this.
Oh, absolutely. And to have such a strong voice, too. I mean, her writing is just,
It's very distinct.
it pulls you right in.
Sultry and atmospheric.
Yes, definitely. And speaking of pulling you in, the stakes have never been higher.
No, they haven't.
We've got Lilith trapped in the well house,
Right.
but her influence is spreading. And then on top of that, we've got Cain and Ryler out there who are just wreaking havoc.
Yeah, it's like this multi-layered threat.
Oh, totally. It's a pressure picker for sure.
For sure. And I think, it's really interesting how Sandoval uses Lilith's imprisonment as a way to explore this idea of suppressed power.
Oh, interesting.
Lilith is a figure who's often associated with rebellion
Right.
and kind of untamed feminine energy. And so the fact that she's trapped in this well house, surrounded by all these barriers and shrines, it's very symbolic.
It's like a physical manifestation of like society trying to control powerful women.
Exactly. And not even just societal constraints. I think it also speaks to Savannah's own internal struggle.
Oh, it's a good point.
To control her powers.
Yeah, because remember those scenes where she's sleepwalking?
Yes.
And she ends up at the well house.
Drawn to it.
Yeah, it's almost like Lilith's energy is calling to her.
Yeah, testing those boundaries.
So it's like an internal and external threat.
Absolutely.
She's battling on two fronts.
At least.
At least, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of battles, gotta talk about Cain and Ryler.
Oh, yeah, they are.
They're the worst.
They're awful.
I mean, talk about villains who know how to push buttons.
Yeah, and they just leave a trail of destruction.
They've murdered, they've abducted, they've manipulated their way through Astoria.
And I think what's really insidious about them is how they prey on vulnerability.
Yes.
So they target people like Dylan, the stripper who is struggling with her succubus nature, and Lucy, the young sex worker.
Right.
And they exploit their insecurities and desires.
For their own gain.
For their own twisted purposes, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they represent the darkest aspects of ambition, that willingness to just step on anyone to get what you want.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. And it's not just about power. It also feels very personal.
Oh, absolutely.
They stole that pearl choker from Savannah.
That Roman gave her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a very symbolic act.
Definitely.
It's a transgression of boundaries.
Yes, it shows that they're willing to violate her on a very personal level.
Absolutely.
And thank goodness Savannah has Belladonna in her corner.
Oh, yeah, she is fantastic.
Yeah, I've loved Belladonna.
She's such a great character.
She's such a badass.
Yeah.
She's a skilled weapons master. She's fiercely protective of Savannah.
And a great teacher.
Yes. I love how Sandoval uses her to showcase female strength and mentorship.
Absolutely. It's that passing of knowledge.
Yes.
From one generation to the next.
It's beautiful.
And it's not just about protection. She's actively training Savannah to defend herself.
Yeah, and I love that Belladonna is not just this one-dimensional warrior.
Right.
She has a relationship with Lucas.
Yeah.
Which adds this whole other layer to her character.
Yeah, and she's navigating a non-traditional relationship with its own set of challenges.
It's so refreshing to see a strong female character who's allowed to be both powerful and vulnerable.
Have desires and needs.
Exactly.
Outside of being just a protector.
Yeah. And Sandoval doesn't shy away from exploring those desires.
No, she doesn't.
She portrays intimacy and sexuality in a way that feels authentic and empowering.
Yes.
But without sacrificing the tension and suspense.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of atmosphere.
Yeah.
Sandoval is so good at using these liminal spaces.
Yeah.
To create this sense of unease and mystery. Like the well house itself.
Right.
All the shrines and the barriers.
It's the threshold.
It feels like a threshold between worlds.
Yes.
Where that veil between reality and something else is very thin.
Very thin.
And then there's the secret corridors under the town hall.
Yeah.
And the hidden rooms within the mansion.
And even Cleo's playground.
Oh, yeah. Cleo's playground becomes this liminal space, too.
It does.
Where secrets are revealed.
Yes.
And characters' paths converge.
It's like these spaces hold a certain energy.
They do, too.
A potential for both danger and revelation.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen next when we stepped into one of those spaces.
Exactly.
And speaking of not knowing what's going to happen next, Savannah's powers are growing stronger.
Oh, yeah.
She's reaching this state that she calls 8K mode.
Right.
It's like this heightened awareness.
Like she's tapped into a higher level of awareness.
And she's having those precognitive dreams. which hint at the danger to come.
It's like a classic trope in urban fantasy.
Yeah.
The protagonists coming into their power as the stakes rise.
Right.
But I think Sandoval handles it with such nuance.
Yes.
She says it's not this effortless or linear progression.
Right. She's really struggling with it.
Yeah.
She's grappling with her fears and her doubts.
It makes her more human.
Oh, yeah.
More relatable.
And it makes it so much more satisfying when she does finally, achieve that level of power or control.
When she masters it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know she's earned it.
Absolutely.
She's really worked for it.
It wasn't just given to her.
Exactly.
She had to go through the fire.
Okay, so we've got Lilith.
Yes.
We've got Cain and Ryler.
Right.
We've got Savannah coming into her own.
Uh-huh.
What are some of the other things that you're excited to see unfold in this final book?
Well, I think one thing that's really intriguing is the role that Roman's going to play.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
Because we know he's carrying a lot of guilt and baggage.
Oh, absolutely, from his past.
From his past.
Yeah.
And he's been trying to protect Savannah.
Yeah.
But I think in this final book, he's going to have to confront his own demons.
He's going to have to step up.
He's going to have to step up.
In a big way.
In a big way. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see.
I can't wait to see how their relationship evolves.
Yeah, me too, because they've got this really intense connection.
They do.
But it's also very fragile.
Yes, because they're both keeping secrets.
Exactly.
And they're both afraid of hurting each other.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see if they could overcome those obstacles.
And truly be there for each other.
Yes, when it matters most.
When the chips are down.
Because it feels like the fate of Astoria might depend on it.
It really does.
Okay, so there's so much to unpack here.
So much.
We've barely scratched the surface.
I know we have a lot more to discuss.
But we're going to have to save that for part 2.
Yes.
So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
Okay, so, we were talking about Roman and his past and all the guilt and baggage that he's carrying.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is. And I think it's interesting because it ties into this whole theme of redemption.
Oh, definitely.
Can he redeem himself for the things that he's done in the past?
And is he worthy of Savannah's love?
Right.
And is he worthy of forgiveness?
Exactly.
I mean, he did some pretty messed up stuff.
He did.
Back in the day.
But he's trying to make amends.
He is.
And he's trying to be a better man.
And that's what makes his character so compelling.
Right.
Because he's not perfect.
He's flawed. But he's trying.
He's trying to grow and evolve.
And I think that's something that we can all relate to.
Absolutely.
Because we all make mistakes.
We all have regrets.
And it's about what we do with those mistakes.
I'll learn from them.
And how we move forward.
Exactly.
And speaking of moving forward, I'm really curious to see what happens with Dylan.
Oh, yeah. Dylan's character arc is so fascinating.
And she's been through so much trauma.
Abused and manipulated by Cain and Ryler.
But she also has this incredible strength.
She does.
And resilience.
Yes.
And I think in this final book, we're going to see her really come into her own.
I think so, too.
And embrace her power.
I hope she turns on Cain and Ryler.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
It would be so satisfying to see her use her understanding of them.
Yes, to outmaneuver them.
To take them down.
And to protect the people that she cares about.
That would be epic.
It would be.
And it would be such a testament to Sandoval's ability to create these complex, multidimensional characters.
Right.
Who defy easy categorization.
Absolutely.
I mean, Dylan is not just a victim.
No.
She's not just a succubus.
She's both and more.
She's so much more.
And I think Sandoval is really challenging those stereotypes.
Yes.
About women who have been through trauma.
Definitely.
They're not defined by their experiences.
They can rise above them.
They can heal and they can become powerful forces for good.
Yes. And speaking of powerful forces for good, we can't forget about Adra.
Oh, Adra, the Kinsha warrior.
He is fierce.
He's amazing.
Protective. And clearly has this deep connection to Savannah.
Yeah, I'm really eager to see how her abilities and her knowledge of ancient magic are going to come into play in the final battle.
I think she's going to be crucial.
I think so, too.
I think she's going to be the key to defeating Lilith.
Or at least a major factor.
Because she represents a different kind of power.
Right.
Something ancient and primal.
Yes.
Something that Lilith might not be expecting.
And it's interesting to consider how Sandoval is weaving together all these different forms of power.
Yes.
You have Savannah's evolving immortal abilities.
Right.
And then you have Adra's ancient Kinsha magic. And then you have Zoe's potent sex magic.
Yeah, it's like a trifecta of power.
It is.
And they're all coming together to fight this ultimate evil.
I love it. It's going to be epic.
It is going to be epic, and I think it's a reminder that there are many paths to strength.
Many ways to fight for what you believe in.
And it's not about which path is better.
No.
It's about finding the path that's right for you.
Exactly.
And using your unique ability
and make a difference.
to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the heroes, but we can't forget about the villains.
No.
Lilith, Cain, and Ryler.
They are a formidable trio.
Oh, yeah. They're not messing around.
Ooh.
And I think one of the things that makes them so scary is that they're not just motivated by power or greed.
They have a deeper agenda.
Yes. They believe in what they're doing.
They have a twisted ideology.
Yeah, they're willing to do whatever it takes.
To achieve their goals.
Even if it means hurting innocent people.
Yeah.
So that makes them really dangerous.
It does.
Because they're not going to back down easily.
No, they're true believers.
And they're not afraid to die for their cause.
Which makes them even more dangerous. Because they have nothing to lose.
And that makes the stakes even higher for Savannah and her allies.
Absolutely.
Because they're not just fighting for themselves.
They're fighting for the fate of Astoria.
And maybe even the world.
It's a battle between good and evil.
Light versus darkness.
And it's all going to come down to this final confrontation.
I can't wait.
I know, me neither.
I am so ready for this book.
I think we all are.
And I have a feeling it's going to be explosive.
Oh, yeah. I think there are going to be some major twists and turns.
I bet.
And maybe even some heartbreaking losses.
Oh, no, don't say that.
I know, but Sandoval is not afraid to kill off characters.
She's not.
And I think that's what makes her writing so compelling.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen next.
It keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we're all looking for in a good story.
Absolutely.
We want to be surprised.
We want to be entertained.
We want to feel something.
And I think Sandoval delivers on all fronts.
She does.
She's a master storyteller.
All right, so we've talked about the characters. We've talked about the plot.
Right.
We've talked about the themes.
And we've talked about the stakes.
But there's one more thing I want to touch on before we wrap up this part.
What's that?
The setting.
Oh, yes. Astoria.
Astoria is such a vibrant and unique setting.
It really is.
It's like a character in itself.
Absolutely.
With its own secrets and history.
And its own dark underbelly.
Yeah, and I love how Sandoval blends the real world with the supernatural.
Yeah, it's so seamless.
You know, you have these ordinary places like the town square and the coffee shop. But then you also have these magical places like the well house and the hidden corridors.
And Cleo's playground.
Oh, yeah. Cleo's playground is a whole other world.
It is.
And I love how Sandoval uses these different settings to create atmosphere and suspense.
Absolutely.
And to reveal different aspects of the characters.
It's like each setting has its own personality and its own energy.
And it affects the characters in different ways.
Exactly.
So I think the setting is a really important part of what makes Carnal Sanctuary so captivating.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
But there's still so much more to discuss.
I know.
So let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll come back for part 3.
Sounds good. Okay, so we've talked about Lilith, Cain, and Ryler, all these different threats.
Right. And the world building and the story and all that. But what I'm really struck by in Carnal Sanctuary is how Sandoval explores female empowerment.
Yeah, she does it in a way that feels really refreshing.
It does.
You know, it's not just about, women kicking ass and taking names.
Right.
Which is awesome, don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But it's also about the nuances of what it means to be a woman.
Exactly. And it's about showing the full spectrum of female experience. You know, the strength and the vulnerability.
Yeah.
The compassion and the fierceness.
And the complexity. Like you have Savannah, who's this incredibly powerful immortal, but she's also allowed to be vulnerable.
Yes, she's not afraid to ask for help.
Right. She seeks guidance from Belladonna.
She relies on her friends.
Yeah.
She cries when she needs to cry.
Exactly. And that's what makes her so relatable. You know, she's not this perfect, unbreakable heroine.
And her vulnerability doesn't make her weak.
No, it makes her stronger.
Exactly.
Because it allows her to connect with others.
Yes.
And to build those bonds of trust and love.
And it makes her more human.
Absolutely. And then you have Belladonna, who is like this ultimate badass.
Oh, yeah.
She's a master swordswoman. She's fiercely protective.
And she's so confident.
Yeah, she owns her power.
But she's also navigating a non-traditional relationship with Lucas.
Right.
Which adds a whole other layer to her character.
Yeah, it shows that she's not just this one-dimensional warrior.
Right. She has desires and needs outside of battle.
And she's not afraid to explore them.
And then there's Zoe.
the sex witch.
Yes.
Who is just amazing.
I love Zoe.
She owns her sexuality, and she uses it as a source of power.
She doesn't apologize for who she is.
No, and she challenges those societal norms.
Exactly.
About how women should behave.
And I think it's so important to see those different representations of female power.
Absolutely, because there's no one right way to be a woman.
Exactly.
There's no one right way to be powerful.
And I think Sandoval does a great job of showing that.
Yeah, she gives us this whole spectrum of female characters.
Who are all strong in their own way.
And I think that's really inspiring.
I agree.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Carnal Sanctuary, I think it's worth reflecting on what we've learned about ourselves.
Well, it's a good question. What have we learned about ourselves?
Through engaging with these characters in this story.
I think for me, it's been a reminder that it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yes.
It's okay to ask for help.
And it's okay to not be perfect.
Yes.
Because our imperfections are what make us unique.
And they're what make us human. And I think that's a really powerful message.
Absolutely.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah, where we're constantly bombarded with messages about, needing to be perfect.
And needing to have it all together.
Yeah.
And I think Carnal Sanctuary is a reminder that that's not realistic.
It's not.
And it's not necessary.
Right. What's important is being true to yourself.
Yes.
Embracing your flaws.
And finding your own strength.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that we can all take away from this series.
Yeah. And I think it's also a reminder that we're not alone in this.
Yes.
We all have our struggles.
We all have our demons.
But we can overcome them.
Together.
Together, exactly.
And I think that's a really hopeful message.
It is.
And it's one that I think we all need to hear right now.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Ellie Sandoval.
Yes, thank you.
Creating this amazing world.
And these incredible characters.
And for reminding us of the power of vulnerability and hope.
Yeah.
All right, folks. That's it for our deep dive into Carnal Sanctuary.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We'll see you next time.